In this tutorial, we are going to be talking about attaching versus welding and when you would use one over the other. When I first started with Cricut Design Space, attaching versus welding really confused me, and I had a hard time remembering not only the difference between the two, but when I would use one over the other one. So when we're talking about attaching versus welding, we're talking about how we are placing our images or our cut files on our mat, or how we're arranging them to be sent through the Cricut machine, and how we're telling the Cricut we want our design to be cut out. So the attach versus weld buttons are down here, and they're in the bottom of the layers panel. The weld button is right here, and then the attach button is this paper clip right here. So on this file, this is intended to be a cursive font, but right now all of the letters are not connected. So what we will do to start is we will come up here to Ungroup and click Ungroup. Now, before it was all one layer, but now by ungrouping it, we put all of the little letters in their single little boxes. So now what we can do is we can grab one and we can place them together where we want them, just like that. So now that it's more of a cursive style and it's where we want it to be, we have to decide if we are going to attach versus weld. So what we're going to do is we are going to drag and select the whole thing, and let's try attaching first. So we're going to go down here to the paper clip and click attach. So now everything is attached together. They are all one image and one layer. So this is going to cut just like this. Well, it looks really great, but if you really look, you still see the cut lines. So when you are attaching, you can think of the attach button like tape. So when you tape two things together, yes, you are connecting them, but underneath that tape, there is something that's still broken. There's something that's still ripped. There's something that still has a line. So when you go to send this through your Cricut just like this, it's going to cut out the words together, but it's actually going to cut them out so that there's a line in between the two of them, so they actually are still detached. So let's go ahead. Oh, another thing about attaching is you can detach, so you can undo. So you can go ahead and click detach, and then they are once again in their individual letters. So let's go ahead and attach those again. That's one thing that's really important, is there is a quick undo button for that. So let's go ahead and duplicate this file. That's the button right up here in the top of the layers panel. We'll drag it down and we have the same thing twice. So now what we're going to do is we are going to drag this whole thing and we're going to try welding it. So we're going to go down here and select weld. And now what you will see is once you weld it, all of the pieces are fused together. So when you think of welding, you can think of an actual welder or an actual welding machine. And what that does is it takes two pieces and it welds them together and it fuses them together. So now you do not see any lines anymore, and this is going to cut out perfectly. And the only lines that you are going to have cut are the lines around the edges and not lines inside the letters. So now with welding, there is no unwelding. So that's something that's really important to remember. With the attaching, you could come down and detach it, but with welding, there's no button that will unweld it. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and unweld it and it was the last thing that you did, you could come up here and hit undo, but say you welded it and then did a few other things in Design Space, then you'd have to undo a bunch of times and it's just a stinker. So you want to make sure that you have once you weld that you like it, because if you want to undo it, you'll have to do it right away. Okay, so when you are thinking about attaching versus welding, remember attaching is like tape and welding is like welding. So tape will still show the imperfections underneath, but welding will fuse everything together. So now there's other times that you might want to think about attaching versus welding, and remember both actions are just deciding how you want your design to be cut out on the mat. So let's say we want to add a heart to our design, and let's say we just want to place a heart near our design for the Cricut to cut out, but we don't necessarily want it to be attached to the letters. So what we can do is we'll go ahead and make this heart pink, and what we're going to do is we're going to tell the Cricut that we just want the heart to be placed right next to the tail of the A. So what we can do is we can go ahead and grab and select everything, and we can just attach this. Now this is going to tell the Cricut again that we want everything cut exactly where we intend it to cut, and we don't need to weld it because there's really no point, because there's nothing that needs to be fused to something else. So you might consider just attaching things when you just want to tell the Cricut that yes, I want something cut right here and placed right here. So I hope this helped clarify attaching versus welding, because sometimes that was really difficult for me to remember when I first started out. So again, remember, attaching is taping and welding is welding together. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and please subscribe because we're going to be doing a lot more fun things on the channel, plus a lot more Design Space lessons. I'll see you in the next video.